Yeah, so let's dive into this one, Scotty. What are your thoughts on this initially? Where are you thinking this game's going to be? We obviously know that Lamar's better in the regular season. To Dubabe's point, 2 weeks off, and he hasn't proven he can perform in the playoffs up until this point at a high level, especially throwing the ball. So where are we at?
I'm so conflicted on this game, Chris.
I am too.
So conflicted. First instinct, I'm like, I'm not a big Lamar playoff guy. I think the Ravens are a little overrated. You can argue whether the 2 weeks off is a good thing or a bad thing. It could go either way. They could either be really rested and healthy and ready to go. They got Mark Andrews coming back. Sounds like he was a full participant. So they're healthy at the right time. Texans coming off a dominating win last week. I worry a little bit with the Texans with two things. I think not playing in a dome for CJ Stroud. Listen, CJ Stroud loves to push the ball down the field, and I love that about him. He does not take the easy way out. And eventually teams are probably going to account for that a little more, kind of like similar to when Mahomes came to the league and did that. But for right now, I love Stroud's mentality. He pushes down the field. He takes shots. He takes chances. He's able to hold the ball. How that plays in 25-degree weather versus a dome, I don't know if that plays as well. Plus, I think Harbaugh is going to have some schemes ready to go to not allow him to sit back and have all the time he does. So, I don't. And then I'm like, I want to say, all right, under. But then I'm like, 43.5 is a pretty small number for this game. That's a small number. That's basically saying the Texans are going to score 17 points in this game, which is pretty low. I could see the Texans falling flat on their faces, or I could see this coming down the wire. And if it comes down the wire, if this game is tie going into the fourth quarter, I think the Texans win. I think the Ravens feel the pressure. I think CJ Stroud's a better thrower of the football than Lamar Jackson. I don't think that's debatable. I don't think that's close to debatable. CJ Stroud is certainly a better thrower of the football than Lamar Jackson.
But how could he be better than the MVP?
Well, the last time Lamar Jackson won league MVP, he lost to Ryan Tannehill in his first playoff game. So riddle me this.
I thought they don't. I thought they don't give MVPs to running backs though.
They do. I mean, the top two, potentially the top two in MVP voting this year, Chris, could be running backs between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen.
yeah, exactly. Why isn't this a running back award? Spicy. So Baltimore dominated. By the way, people were for the beginning of the season. These two teams played, and Baltimore dominated before we knew. We didn't know at that point.
It was week one, right? It was week one.
Yeah, and we didn't know that Houston was going to be this good, right? So we saw a little bit of what this looked like in an early preview, but again, that was the beginning of the season. Things change over the course of a season. Ravens have been really good so far this season, which is why I'm like, I'm with you. I'm torn. I don't want to believe in Lamar Jackson because we've seen this. What is this? Horse and dog and pony show? Is that what it is? Dog and pony show before?
Yeah, dog and pony show.
We've seen this before, and nothing has told us different that a great regular season Ravens team somehow finds a way to choke in the playoffs when things tighten up a little bit more. They've had some time off, but they've also had wins against some decent passing offenses, the Dolphins, the Niners. Texans defense hasn't faced an offense that have finished higher than 14th in yards per play since week one against this Ravens team. So, the splits between home and on the road for the Houston Texans worries me a little bit. I know they don't play as clean on the road, and especially going up to the Northeast in this one. If I had a lean, I messaged you before the show, Scotty. I was like, if I had a lean, I hate big favorites in the playoffs like this, especially with Houston playing the way they have and just breaking down barriers and proving everybody wrong. But 9.5. It's a big number. I if I had to lean one way, I think I might, as weird as this sounds, lean towards Ravens minus 9.5. I mean, when at some point we got to see CJ Stroud come back down in this. I mean, if he can come back, just blow out the Ravens in this game, I mean, that changes a lot, but it's tough for me on this one. I've gone back and forth. Word for word, Scotty, this is what I said about some of my leans, and this was one of them, Baltimore minus 9.5. It's a very slight lean. Don't have a ton of confidence and can be convinced the other side. So it's kind of a lean, but kind of not a lean, but it is. So that's kind of how I feel about this game. If I had a lean, it would be Ravens minus 9.5. They might not make it. It might be one of our big balls bets of the week on this one, Scotty.
I mean, it's just hard to take Lamar minus 9.5 in the playoffs.
It is.
They've blown some teams out at home this year. I mean, Baltimore, some good teams at home. Absolutely dominant at home, and they blew out. Well, at the time, Seattle was playing well. They blew out
Detroit.
Miami. Detroit's the one I was thinking of. Everybody beats Miami these days.
In December.
No, but and Miami. So they had some blowout wins at home. So there's certainly potential there. Lamar's been so bad in his playoff career that it's hard. It's hard for me to figure out if he's going to be able to figure that out. And part of it's not him figuring it out. It's that teams, for whatever reason, teams are like prepped for him in the playoffs, but not in the regular season. It's weird. But he has not had a single good playoff game in his career. Not one.
Maybe this is the year. I don't know. James Katz says Ravens all day. First time chatter. James, welcome in. I'm assuming you're a Ravens fan, or maybe you just like betting the Ravens.
I just like the Ravens in this game.
Who's your team and where you're from? I'd like to get to know you a little bit. Welcome in. Canada Relief. This site says five Ravens defenses injured 5 quarterbacks through 2023 NFL season. 5 quarterbacks have now suffered injuries when playing against the Baltimore Ravens in the 2023. Most recently, San Francisco 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy, who had a painful blow during his team's. Chalk Purdy. They won the only division where every team had a winning record since the 30s. Says Dubabe, Texans are way more fun. Ravens are better rounded, says Cuban. Definitely bet the over in this game, says Adolfer. So keep that in mind. By the way, one of the simulations that it simulates these games, like 10,000 simulations, and it spits out numbers. The over under total it spit out for this particular matchup, 44.4. So pretty close to the number here. So that it's pretty comparable to what the Vegas line is. And minus 10 should be minus 10.2 for the Baltimore Ravens, according to the simulations, which again is only half a point off what we're at now. So pretty efficient lines, but it leans towards Baltimore as well.
Lamar has, through 4 games in the playoffs, 3 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions. And in one of those games, he had to throw the ball 59 times, Chris, against Tennessee in that MVP season because they got behind early. So his stats, you're like, oh, he threw for 365 yards, 1 touch and 2 picks. It wasn't anywhere near. I mean, he threw 59 times. His completion percentage was 52.5. He got sacked a bunch. And that's another thing, Chris. He's been sacked 19 times in 4 games in the playoffs.
How's Texans pass rush?
They got the Rook.
Anderson Jr.
Yeah, they got the Rook. They moved up in the draft for.
Who's that one guy they have? Jonathan Grenard. Grenard's got 12.5 sacks.
You don't even need. Usually, when you're sacking Lamar, it's because he's not great at jumping from read to read, and he gets a little, and then he's like looking to run, and he's looking for a lane. So you kind of prevent the lane and let him sit there and slowly creep in on him. You don't need like an immediate guy there to sack Lamar. But yeah, 19 sacks in 4 games is terrible. 5 picks in 4 games compared to 3 touchdowns. 900 total yards in 4 games on a ton of attempts is not great.
His playoff resume is brutal, and that's what holds me back.
He averages about 6.5 yards per pass attempt in the playoffs, which is not good, Chris. It's not good.
Honestly, one of the bets I low key like, I want to see like the Texans covering in the spread in the first quarter. Because again, Lamar hasn't played in 2 games or 2 weeks. It's going to take a little bit for him to get up to speed.
Yeah,
we might have to come back to this one. I don't know where our bet's going to be.
He's 1-3, and even the game he won, I think they put up like 20 points in.
Like 24.
I don't even know if it was that.
I can check real quick. I think it was 24. Ravens versus Titans playoffs. It was 2013. It was a 7-point game.
Yeah, 2013 win. So it's not like he was just blowing the doors down and dominating. That was a defensive win for the Ravens, which could happen in this game. But when you're 9.5 point favorite, I want to believe in that quarterback. And I just.
But also in this game, he had 179 yards passing and 136 yards rushing. So it was the ground game that was winning it.
Yeah, we'll have to come back to this one. I don't know if this is going to be one of our best bets of the week.
I'd say sprinkle some money on Texans money line plus 330.
I'd love for the annual home Arrowhead AFC Championship game. It's like an annual event, so I'd love for that to continue, and then Texans to win this game.
And that's if you win.
Yeah, I think if anything, this will be either a close Texans win or I think a Baltimore. Can it be one or the other? Baltimore blowout or a close Texans win?
It could. I mean, yeah, it could be one or the other there.
So, I mean, it could be. We'll figure it out. Literally hosting tryouts for walk-ons the rest of this week so that women's basketball to try to be able to finish the season. Yep. Yeah, that's that's why you gotta recruit some people down there. Keep close. Baltimore is known to win Super Bowls. Can you say Baltimore defense? Baltimore's defense is going to be a little bit better than what they saw against Cleveland. Maybe, I don't know how much better, but they'll be.
Are we not sure that the AFC North defenses are inflated because they got to play the AFC North?
All played each other.
I tried to tell everyone was like Cleveland's got a really good defense. I tried to say I think they just didn't play a lot of good teams offensively, and they got exposed last week.
AFC North does have the defensive player of the year in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but the defenses are a little overrated in the AFC North.
Look out.
A lot overrated.
Hey, guys, my Super Bowl prediction is Packers versus Chiefs. Got the Packers going. Okay.
Super Bowl I rematch.
Who's your team? Look out. Who's your team and where are you from? Like to get to know you a little bit. Guys, again, great to have you guys all in. Hit that follow button if you guys are new, hanging out with us in the Action Lab. We're going to get to our best bets in a little bit, trying to figure out if this is going to be one of them. Next up, speaking of Packers, look out. Your Packers in your prediction have to get past this 49ers team who has been looking one of the best teams in the NFL. On paper, they definitely are, but they've been playing some good ball.
Just like the first game. 9.5 point spread for a team that rested their starters, going 2 weeks without playing football.
Yeah, and here we go. Packers visiting San Francisco. San Francisco 9.5 point favorites in this game. Total a little bit higher than the last game we saw with that big discrepancy. We have a 50.5 point total. And money line for Green Bay plus 340, San Francisco minus 440. San Francisco, I believe, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, is the favorite to win the Super Bowl as of right now. But where I kind of leaned towards the favorite, Scotty, in the other game. Hey, Big Mason. Let's go. Mason.
That's not my son, is it?
He created an account real quick.
That 2-year-old is advanced.
Mason, welcome in. How are you doing? Who's your team and where are you from? Like to get to know you. Also, look out. Chiefs, I'm from the Carolinas, not saying which one, but my mom's been a fan her whole life, and she converted me last year. So there you go. Scotty here's a Chiefs fan. So you're in a good spot. You're in a good spot.
I'm sort of a Chiefs fan.
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
Packers win. Jordan Love's the best QB in the NFL over the last 6 games. You're not wrong. Statistically, Babe, he's been one of the best. He has been the best in this last stretch of the NFL season. You know, we talk a lot about remember those Giants teams and the Ravens teams that won those Super Bowls. They kind of backdoored their way into the playoffs and just got heat and just kind of made a run. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that that's going to be the case here, but Packers played some really, really good ball, and they've earned their way after beating. We talked about the Cowboys a ton on the last show, so we're not going to bring them up, but they beat a good Cowboys team at home, and here they are. It's crazy to think that they crushed the Cowboys like they did, and they're 10-point underdogs in the next game. But here we are. So this game, similarly to the last one, I don't have like a massive feeling confidently about one side or the other. If anything, Scotty, I would lean more Green Bay plus 9.5 in this one if I had to choose. But again, I could be talked the other way. I know that San Francisco is really good, but this is going to be another interesting one. What are your thoughts on this one? And I'll get into my thoughts as well.
This one's tough too. I like a lot of, obviously the Packers are playing really good. Jordan Love's confidence is at an all-time high. I think they win the quarterback battle here. I think Jordan Love's better than Brock Purdy. I don't even think that should be like a hot take by any stretch of the imagination. Jordan Love's a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. The roster, I mean, they're young. They got to win. Obviously at Dallas, that can go one of two ways. You can celebrate that win a little too hard, or you can just be like, we don't know what we don't know, and we're just going to go into 49ers where no one's believing in us again, and we'll play that underdog mentality. As far as the Niners, it's tough. They're so good in the divisional round, Chris. The Niners don't lose in the divisional round. They just don't.
Their history
like
says, yeah.
Like the last time they played in the divisional round and lost was, I think, 1995. And they've played in a decent amount since then. And, from beating Dallas last year, they beat Green Bay the year before in a game that Green Bay was favored in heavily, and they won a close one. Minnesota the year before, or not the year before, but a couple years before. So Shanahan's good when he has the prep, getting ready for the divisional round. The Packers are riding a high and playing phenomenal offensive football. The 49ers are going to present some problems. I think the Packers are going to have a much tougher coaching matchup than they did against the Cowboys, where they were just able to out scheme and outmaneuver the Cowboys coaching staff there. 9.5's a lot. This game feels so similar to the other game. Yeah. Although I believe in these two teams a little bit more than I believe in the Ravens or the Texans. I like both these teams more than those two teams. Well, I mean, in an essence, like I have a little more high thoughts of. I don't know, Chris. And also, the 50.5 is a big number. That's a big over-under number.
Yeah. And here's the thing, too. So Jordan Love, his offense is finally... I mean, they were battling a lot of injuries in the regular season, early and middle of the season. They finally got some of their guys back, so they have, some fairly healthy players. Aaron Jones has been playing out of his mind. I think he's a big factor in this one. I mean, he's had at least 20 carries and 110 rushing yards in 4 straight games, all dominant. Green Bay wins. Like, he's been very, very good. I think they lean heavily on him, which slows the game down maybe a little bit. Maybe takes a couple possessions away if they have some longer drives and they lean on that, but they still can stretch the ball. I mean, they've still been able to prove that they've been able to throw on some quality defenses. Minnesota is an okay defense. Chicago, Dallas, they've been able to move the ball against some of these teams. I think they can go blow for blow offensively with the 49ers. Whether or not the 49ers defense holds back Love in any of these possessions and any of these drives, it's going to be a different story because they can really get after the quarterback. But I think the Packers find a way to backdoor this game at the very minimum. I mean, I don't know if the Packers can potentially win this one outright. I mean, that's going to be a tall order to come on the road twice back-to-back against Dallas and San Francisco. So, but I do think they have enough offensively between Aaron Jones and some of those wide receivers and Love is on a roll. He's their guy. So I think there's a way that the Packers backdoor cover this big number. Niners are rested. They have had some time off. Whether or not you believe that is a good thing that you had that extra time off because you get rusty, or whether it's a good thing that you just get rested up and you can just prepare a little bit more. Those are two different conversations. But I don't know. I'm not like I say. I like plus 9.5. But
I lean 9.5 plus 9.5 to Packers as well, Chris.
Yeah, it's tough though.
And part of me wants to just take the 4 dogs this week and let's roll.
Just bet all the dogs, every single one of them. There's another dog.
I mean, that's what the lab bets tried to do last week, and it worked.
It worked. Let's see. Lookout. However, I'm scared about the divisional round because this is Mahomes' first playoff game on the road. I wouldn't worry.
Let me ease your
We'll get to that game in a little bit. Look out. Don't worry. We'll get to that game in a little bit. What's up, Ty? What's going on? Welcome in. I cannot trust our kicker to win the game for us. The way that he has been playing lately is crazy.
That is true.
Says Legend.
Anders Carlson does suck as a kicker.
So
his brother's a whole lot better.
Christian McCaffrey needs the rest. Non-quarterback MVP. Yeah, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, you always want. I mean, that's the other side. We haven't really.
I'm not worried about a rust factor with a running back so much as I am the QB and the timing with the wide receivers and the passing game and all of that. So that's the difference. And a team coming off a playoff win has a little bit of juice and momentum, and whereas you've been chilling for a few weeks.
Guys, one more time. Well, not the last time, but ! Vote in the chat. Here we go. Vote. We are up for, we're trying to get nominated for a streamer award for the first time in the history of our show, while Scotty takes a code yellow.
Thank you. I didn't even need to say it.
I got you.
Put my hands
I got you. See? I take care of you. Make sure you guys click the link. All you got to do is make sure you're logged in once you get to that link to your Google account, and then you vote, add ActionLab to each one of these 4 categories and click submit. That's all you got to do. It takes 30 seconds and it means a lot to us. The more votes we get, the better opportunity we have to represent you at the Streamer Awards. We'll see. I don't know how this all works. So thank you guys. I know you guys, a lot of you have said you voted already. So thank you for all your support. If there's one thing you do to help us out tonight, that's it. So help us out a little bit. Appreciate all that. You guys are always supporting us. So I don't doubt that you're going to go help us with getting some more votes. Spam code yellow in the chat as always. Guys, what are your thoughts on this game? Guys, remember, keep in mind all these over-unders and spreads so we can get your vote on what your ActionLab Rat best bet of the week is. You guys are 1-0 after last week, so let's keep that rolling as well. Total's interesting in this one, by the way, too. The over seems
3.5.
The over seems, I don't know if it's high, but Here's the thing. If
I would lean the over because the Packers typically don't have a good defense. They have good defensive players, but Joe Barry is not exactly an ideal defensive coordinator.
If the Packers cover the 9.5, I think the total goes over. So I think those go hand in hand. If you're betting Packers plus 9.5, you're probably betting the total over 50.5. So that might be one of our best bets, over 50.5 in this game. It's a tough over. I know, Adolph. I know.
I would definitely lean over.
If you
again, like the Niners, they could put up 38 by themselves, so the Packers would only have to cover 13.
Yeah, I think the Packers can get a couple touchdowns in this game. I mean, the Packers have proven that they can get a couple good. They can score against some decent defenses, like I said earlier. So I think that the more and more I talk about it, the more and more I'm talking myself into the over.
I was just about to say the same thing. I like the over.
All right, so when Scotty gets back, we'll throw that out there. Even though I'm a Packers fan, I believe they can pull it off. Love is much better than Purdy. Jones better than at the moment, maybe you can make that argument. I mean, Jones is on a nice heater, but CMC is a different animal. That's a different beast. I don't know. From a pure talent standpoint, Christian McCaffrey is the dude. I can say that Jones or Love is better than Purdy. I feel like he's doing a lot more with less than what Purdy's dealing with. Like, think about this, guys. How many of the recent quarterbacks that have left San Francisco have had some success? You've had Jimmy Garoppolo, who can't even win a job over a rookie in Las Vegas.
Alex Smith.
You have
Alex Smith, who had a 34-point lead in the playoffs and blew it.
And you had Trey Lance.
That seemed unnecessary to bring up.
And
that wasn't with the Niners.
And you have Trey Lance, who can't win a backup job, and got shipped out. And
he should be the second back. I mean, he should be the primary backup behind Cooper.
I knew where you were headed there. And just stop it.
Well, now you're banned.
Now you're banned. So, Scotty, we talked ourselves into the over. We were like, I was saying, like, if we believe that the Packers can cover 9.5, we believe that this total should probably inch its way to the over for us. So if that's our lean, plus 9.5, over 15.
I don't know that I agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
What if there's a rust factor to that offense for the 49ers, and that's how they stay in the game?
I mean, I think the 49ers can put up points on this Green Bay Packers defense.
Hard to have a rust. I will say it's hard to be rusty when like your throws are basic and you just out talent people because you have talent all over the place on your offensive side of the football with San Fran.
There's only been 7 seeds for like 2 years, so that stat doesn't mean much, says Dubabe.
This is, I think, year 3 of the 7 seed. Yeah, so it's
yes,
it's a small sample.
Yeah. Purdy's incredible. He's just different type of quarterback, like a Drew Brees. Well, until we see the talent level fall on this San Francisco team, which, I mean, eventually it will because they can't afford to pay as many people as they're paying. We'll find out what Brock Purdy really is all about. But you can't hate on him for winning with a talented roster around him. All right. So next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Detroit. Now's your time to shine, Chairman. Here we go. We're talking about you boys. Lions and Bucks, both impressive last week. Detroit, 6.5 point favorites at home. Total set to 48.5. Yeah, the Bucks doing something that not a lot of people thought, except for we. We thought that they would cover at least 3.5. We didn't know that they were going to win the way they did, Scotty, but they did it in pretty decisive fashion. Tampa Bay plus 215 on the money line. Detroit minus 265, which means you have to bet $265 to win 100 if you want to take the Lions straight up. This is another. These first three games that we covered, by the way, Scotty, are the ones that I just like. I think the line is right where it should be. I talked about those simulations earlier. This has -6 for Detroit and 46.8 as the over/under. So pretty much 47. So maybe these lines are pretty efficient overall. I message
it's hard to get to 40. It's hard to land at 46.8 points in a game.
Well, I mean, again,
I don't think that's ever been done.
No, it hasn't. But these are 10,000 simulations, so the numbers aren't exactly clean when you have 10,000 simulations. Okay. My lean in this one, Scotty, I've gone back and forth in this one. Chairman, I think this seems like a teaser for us, Scotty. I think I always, the first thing I look at every single week is the teaser options, whether or not there's any teasers that could potentially be in play for any of these games. And you see the 2.5s and you see the like 6.5s, 6s that you could tease down. This screams teaser for me with the Detroit Lions because I think the Lions win this game. If you tease the Lions on a 6-point teaser, which by the way, if you're new to teasers, 6 points is the standard teaser. You have to pair them with one other game. So there's 2 total picks or more. You could do more, but basically 2 picks that you can change by 6 points. So we would tease down the Lions, hear me out, and then we would tease up the Chiefs to 6.5 or 8.5. I'm sorry, 8.5. So if there's a line I'm taking in this one, it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. I think that's probably my favorite bet of the weekend. What are your thoughts?
First, Diacol is like, why would anyone bet 265 to win 100? So to be clear, that's profiting on 100. So if you bet 265 and you win that bet, you'd get 365 back.
Yeah,
so it's profiting 100, but
you have to wager more.
You got to wager more because they're the favorite, and that's kind of how that works. People bet on higher, much more aggressive favorites than that often. So it happens.
I still remember last year when the Chargers were up 27-0. Someone put a ton of money on the Chargers to win.
Yep, and they didn't. You may now point and laugh. Yeah. Chris, this one for me, initially, any other situation, I love betting on Detroit at home this year. I think they're definitely the superior team here in general to Tampa Bay. Props to Tampa Bay for beating a dead horse last week. That was the Philadelphia Eagles. But I'm not, Tampa, even down the stretch, like, I'm not even sure Tampa wanted to be in the playoffs that much. They were like, do we want to be in? Like, they squeak by. They win against the Panthers 9-0 to get their playoff spot. After losing at home to the Saints, that could have clinched it the week before. The Baker story is great. I didn't purposely make Baker shorter in this graphic, but it just kind of happened naturally. Honestly, normally any week I would like Detroit, and I would like Detroit by a lot of points in this game. Certainly more than 6.5. My issue with Detroit this week is emotion. Detroit just won a wild card game against, obviously that meant a ton for Goff. It meant a ton for the city of Detroit. They hadn't won a playoff game since, a
lot of storylines.
You were in a crib, I would imagine. It's been a long time coming. There was a lot of emotion after the game you saw from players and fans. I don't think that does them any favors this week. I think typically, and I'm not saying that happens every time, typically when a team invest that emotion in one game, it's hard to come back and replicate that the following week. and it feels like they put so much into last week that, like, historically in sports, it's hard to replicate that next week and bounce back and be ready to go. And now they're favorites, which is almost worse in a sense of, like, now they can kind of get comfortable and be like, oh, now we get to play Tampa Bay. Tampa's all we have to do to make the NFC Championship game. Sweet. Like Baker Mayfield's all that we have to beat in a Tampa team that most people thought was going to be a bottom 5 team in the league coming in this year. And that's where I get concerned with Detroit. Are they going to be able to focus in, play with that same intensity, that same passion, that same emotion? You can try and tell yourself you can do it, but like when it actually comes up, like, it's hard to replicate. I hope Detroit wins this game because I think that would make a more entertaining NFC Championship game. To be honest, Tampa to me is not a team I get excited about. Congrats to Baker. I'm happy for Baker. He's been thrown to the wolves and ditched after being a number 1 overall by obviously Cleveland, but then he didn't play well in Carolina like I thought he might, and then spent some time with the Rams or whatever last year. But I want Detroit to win this game because I think it's a better narrative and storyline and frankly game in the NFC Championship game, regardless of who wins that other one. And normally I'd love Detroit. I worry about the emotion from Detroit though.
Yeah,
it's too much for me, and that scares me. But I agree with you. I mean, I'm fine. I'm fine with teasing them down, and including them with an automatic second leg. That's
automatic.
Like, we don't even that. Is there a way to do a teaser where you only tease one team and the other team you just keep at the line and like you don't worry about it?
I mean, to be fair, I like Kansas City plus 2.5 by itself. So teasing it up is just a bonus.
Somebody got it at 3, and that somebody is me.
See, you got it early. Yeah, I
got it yesterday.
Did you? Oh, well, DraftKings is.
It's been moving around that much.
It's been moving quite a bit.
Well, 2.5 to 3 is pretty much what I've seen it at.
I think at one point I heard someone say it dipped to 2 briefly, but maybe I was mistaken. Maybe
it did. Said that.
So,
it did.
but then that it was at 2 for like 30 seconds, and then it went back up. So I could see both sides of this, right? So obviously you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who playing pretty good ball, winning 6 of their last 7. But at the same time, Lions, like you said, they're playing pretty good ball. Sam Laporta's playing through his injury and looking pretty effective. So the fact that he's definitely been, a relying. They've been relying a lot on him to kind of battle through, and he's been performing. So you got to take that into account. But yeah, I think the Bucs last week, they played a team that couldn't really tackle, and were without one of their top wide receivers, and it just they still kind of let them hang around. The Eagles kind of hung around in that game a little bit, more than they probably should have, but it's still Tampa Bay defense. So I see some of these trends. Maybe this is a little tougher matchup for Tampa Bay coming in, but on the other side, Baker Mayfield has covered 4 straight as an underdog in 7 of 8. He's facing a Lions defense that gives up the most explosive pass plays. In their last 4 games, Detroit has given up 367 passing yards to Matthew Stafford, 396 and 411 yards to Nick Mullins and Dak Prescott. They've been just getting gashed. The Rams averaged a whopping 7.7 yards per play in their wild card loss. So you can move the ball on this defense of the Lions, which again kind of leans itself to another lean that I kind of am thinking about is Detroit Tampa Bay over 48.5. I think both teams will be able to move the ball on each other's defenses. So there could be an opportunity for Baker to get a couple scores and keep them competitive. And I think Detroit still does what they do at home and plays and puts up some points as well. So the over 48.5 is another option I'm leaning towards. But we can kind of still use that one in addition to our teaser, teasing down Detroit to just a half point. So basically, they just need to win, and then KC plus 8.5. So just maybe some leans. Let's see. Heard a stat that said Baker has more playoff wins than Brown's organization since Art Modell moved the team to Baltimore.
That would be correct.
To be fair, you could also say that about the Lions. He has more playoff wins than the Lions as well in that stretch, even a longer stretch.
Saint called on fans to bring even harder this week. They said it was the fourth loudest crowd since they started tracking that in the NFL. Every player I've seen interviewed and players and coaches in the locker room were all saying this is great, but we are not done. Chairman's close to the team, and I know that he's got a little pulse on what's going on in Detroit. So
I definitely think the players don't feel like they're done, and they're going to do everything in their power mentally to get prepared. It's just like there's like something almost I don't even know how to explain it. You can't control where like you just can't exert that energy that you expended on that last game that meant so much in this one. But we'll see. I mean, he's like, well, the Bucks also have an emotional letdown after beating the reigning NFC champs. I don't see that as much. It just didn't feel like the emotion. That Eagles team was, like I don't even. The Bucks probably just walked out the field and was like, "What the fuck was that?" Like I don't even feel like did we even play well or did we just beat literally a dead team? So I don't think the emotion factor is going to be there as much for the Bucks. And again, now that they're the underdog, I also think that helps them play loose and no one believes in you. And that's where, as Chris, you mentioned before with the stats, like Baker kind of thrives in those situations. So.
Yeah. Well, and again, if the Lions defense is giving up massive chunk plays throughout the game, I mean, Baker can get in a rhythm, and then all of a sudden you look up, and I mean, if I had to pick just a normal set spread in this one, maybe I'm leaning towards the Bucks, but I don't feel great, which is why we're teasing it probably. All right, next up, finally, we have the Chiefs at the Buffalo Bills. The spread here, Buffalo -2.5 at home. This will be the biggest playoff game that the Chiefs have ever played on the road. So, I mean, not Super Bowl. Super Bowl in a neutral site doesn't count. This is a playoff game on the road against a big time opponent. Would you agree, Scotty? It's because there's only two, right? There's only two.
Well, I mean,
there's only one road playoff game that
Mahomes has never technically played a road playoff game. He played at Tampa against the Bucks in the Super Bowl, but that's technically not referred to as a road game. So he's never played a playoff road game.
Yeah.
before.
So this will be it. We'll see how it ends up going.
This is the toughest playoff road game he's ever had because it's his first.
Well, and then Buffalo playing the way they did. Obviously, you had Josh Allen, who kind of looked.
That wasn't much of an accomplishment.
Josh Allen, I mean, doing what he needed to do against the. Why am I blanking? The
Steelers.
The Steelers.
Did you not hear Rec?
Sorry.
Talking about it wasn't a big accomplishment. That should have been a hint.
Sorry, I was like scrambled with like the matchups last week. Brendan, thank you so much. Brendan always supporting the channel. Go give Brendan a follow. Shout out to Brendan. Also, appreciate all you guys. Hope you had a great stream. Welcome in to the Action Lab. Good to have you. All right, so yeah, this one I feel pretty confident in taking the Chiefs, even at 2.5. I think you got it at 3. This one, the Chiefs feel like their defense is playing at a good pace right now. I think last week kind of got some of the offense, even in a cold weather environment against Miami. They played very well at home, which, I mean, Miami, I think, is also absolutely dog shit in terrible weather, in cold weather. They shouldn't. That's just not a great situation for them. But the Chiefs did what they had to do. Chiefs have the rest edge by 2 days, so they have a little bit more to kind of, recharge a little bit. They averaged 7 yards per play in Cincinnati week 17. 18 was meaningless. Chiefs piled up 409 yards versus Miami in the 26-7 wild card win. So like the offense has been kind of clicking a little bit more as of late going into the playoffs. So it's getting a little bit better. You got to monitor some of the drops from Kelsey and some of those things, but and some of the other players on this team. That's, I think, the big thing. The Chiefs have more drops than any other team in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken. So either way, I think that this game is... does Buffalo see ghosts in this game, Scotty? Do they just see ghosts of the playoff past and just like start panicking regardless? They see the Chiefs across the line of scrimmage. They're like, man, we've had some battles and it hasn't really always gone the way we want.
No, I don't think it's ghosts. I think there is an aspect that's different this time in the sense that it's in Buffalo, and quite frankly, all the pressure at this point's on Buffalo, right? Like KC, no one's believing in them. This is a KC team that's been down. Like we've heard all year, this isn't as good of it. This is a down KC team, the worst KC team since Mahomes has been there in their history. You get this home game against, if you don't beat them now, we ain't gonna beat them. Better beat them now. All the pressure's on Buffalo. You talked about that 2 days rest. That 2 days rest is huge. When they played in KC the time before, Buffalo was coming off a bye, so they had an extra week rest coming into that game. Obviously that was the infamous like Kadarius Toney offensive offsides that negated a touchdown that perhaps could have won it for the Chiefs. Instead, the Bills went on and won that game 20-17. No Isaiah Pacheco in that game for the Chiefs either. Chris didn't play in that one. His only game he missed all season. Everything. Chris, I feel so weirdly confident about this game that I'm like almost scaring myself with how confident I am.
Oh no!
I don't know. I don't even know if it's particularly close. People talk about it, and the narrative is like, oh, it's Mahomes' first road game. It's like, are we ignoring the fact that Mahomes throughout his career has been better on the road than at home? Are we just gonna wipe that out? And you're like,
Yes.
no, that can't be true. Well, his record on the road is 38-11 in the regular season, 36-11 at home. So better on the road slightly. Couple more games. He has a higher completions percentage, 68-65 on the road, 1,600 more passing. He averages on the road in his career 307 yards passing per game, 8.3 yards per attempt to 7.5 at home and 285 at home. He has 19 more touchdowns on the road in his career. His TD percentage per drive is a whole 1% higher, 6.6 to 5.6. And oh, wait, this year, even when they've been struggling, their offensive DVOA at home is 13th in the league. On the road, it's the 6th best. They're the 6th best DVOA in the league. They've been better offensively on the road throughout Mahomes' career. He got interviewed earlier this year by CBS, and he's like, they're like, do you like being like at home, or do you like playing on the road a little bit and being the spoiler? And he's like, I like kind of playing the villain role. Like, the dude plays better. The offense plays better historically, year in, year out, on the road. Now, the defense maybe not. Obviously, the defense has helped more at home, right? You get the crowd noise, you get the snap count, you get the timing off that. So maybe the defense is going to be a problem. But, like, the 2 extra days rest, Chris, combined with the mess of Buffalo having to change games last week, move it a day. They got a ton of guys, unfortunately, and I don't like this aspect, but like
a lot of injuries.
Football had a lot of injuries, a lot of DNPs, did not practice today's. The Chiefs come in way more healthy than the Buffalo Bills are going into this game. And then you had like even Buffalo this week, there's like another storm, Chris. So it's like hard for them to even get to practice this week. Like there's so many variables that are leaning towards the Chiefs and helping the Chiefs. And that's why I felt so comfortable last week. Obviously, like, I'm not a genius saying like, oh, Miami's not going to play well in cold weather. Well, guess what? I said, they win by 17 or whatever, or and they won by 19. I really, really think the Chiefs are going to win this game. I just have a really good feeling about it, Chris. Call me a homer. Call me whatever you want. But this whole idea, like, that, they're going on the road, and so now they can't win, is crazy to me. And also, I saw this week, like, you remember the Stafford hit on Sunday Night Football where he got hit by one guy and the second guy, and they didn't call roughing or whatever, or like other hits. Everyone's just like, oh, if that happened to Mahomes, like, that would have been instantly called. Chris, do you know how many roughing the passer calls have been called against Mahomes this year?
Couldn't tell you.
Two. Do you know how many have been called against Josh Allen?
Probably a lot more than 2.
8.
Too many.
Look at that one. Look at that one roughing the passer from last week.
I mean, that roughing the
Takes a
passer was
slide and-
garbage. He whether you even agree that was a fake slide or not, that roughing the passer late on the slide was absurd, especially with a guy like Josh Allen that, like, physically overpowers you and will beat you up and run over you if you don't attempt to tackle him. You can't rest on your laurels. That was a crappy call. And I actually love Josh Allen. I think he's awesome to watch, and he's a lot of fun, and he's really super talented. But he's a guy that will run over you, and then he will flail his body like a baby out of the womb when he wants to try and get a call. So, and I'm not saying Mahomes doesn't use the advantage. Like, he uses the advantage of the sideline. We all know the call in the AFC Championship game last year, whatever you want to say. So both players do it, but, like, don't single out Mahomes. Allen's right there with him. But my whole point is, like, I feel so weirdly, oddly, comfortably good.
Almost two.
I almost like it more that it's on the road, Chris. If this was at home, I'd feel less confident. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, I think there's. My feeling is and I mean, again, like I said, one of my favorite bets that I feel the most confident about. We teased it up just to be safe, but even just +2.5 for the Chiefs, just to get. I mean, again, I keep going back to these simulations that I am looking at. This has this game almost at a pick'em. Basically, it's 0.7 in favor of the Buffalo Bills, which is saying in 10,000 simulations, the Bills are only should be favored by only less than a point at home, which again it gives me even more confidence that the Chiefs are probably the right side here.
And I wonder if that takes into account, like, the 2 days extra rest is a huge deal, Chris, and the injuries are a huge deal, and the Chiefs' last 5 or 6 games, every single one of those, they had less rest than the other team in. And that took a toll, and the Chiefs lost some games they probably shouldn't have and didn't look great down the stretch. But, like, extra rest in the NFL is huge. Huge, especially 2 days. So while I was a guy that hated that Buffalo and Pittsburgh game move last week. But in essence, that helped the Chiefs, which I knew at the time, but that's not what my concern was. But 2 extra days rest is huge, monumental in a game like this.
Yeah, I think
Kansas City privilege is real. Can I just say that Kansas City had the second worst penalty differential in the league this year? Second worst penalty differential in the NFL this year. So if that's privileged,
later.
If that's privileged, I don't know what privilege is.
Right now, I'm taking a look at some of the rushing. They don't even have, they have rushing stats here for Josh Allen. Over under set at 44.5. I think if they want to win this game, he's got to have over 44.5 rushing yards. I think he's going to have to make this. I mean, he did a lot. I mean, against a bad Pittsburgh defense without Watt last week. He broke out a couple of long runs against that defense, which isn't, again, saying much, like Rex said earlier. But I mean, the games that Josh Allen is keeping them in he's using himself as, the primary running back in some of these situations where it's hard to account for him whether or not he's that big body that's going to get downfield and get some momentum and make some plays. So that's I think that's a key X factor for the Buffalo Bills. And then obviously that gets the crowd into it. That gets everything going on. I mean, we'll see, but I'm
of course,
I'm on the Chiefs in this one from
which Josh Allen are we gonna get?
And,
Are we gonna get the Josh Allen that can destroy worlds, or the one that makes you question why he's getting
and another
paid
thing
to
too,
play
and I think
quarterback?
it'll be a drive to drive that'll happen. We'll see flashes of great Josh Allen, and then we'll see flashes of like, what the F you doing, Josh?
Of
Allen?
why are you here?
I think
and this isn't to say that I don't think Buffalo is a really good team. I do. I just think it's a bad spot for Buffalo.
Yeah.
I really think it's a bad spot.
if Josh Allen can go turnoverless, not turn over the ball, and have use his legs quite effectively throughout the game, I think they have a really good chance of winning this game. But that's a lot to ask. We'll see. I mean, he's done it. I mean, the turnover thing is the biggest thing. He always has. I mean, one of the reasons why, again, last week he protected the ball. So I don't know. We'll see. But let's get it. Let's go ahead. Let's get to. We've covered all these games. Again, Baltimore -9.5, guys. This is your chance right now. Start thinking about what bet you guys want. So Baltimore is again 9.5 point favorite, total at 43.5. You have San Francisco -9.5 favorites against the Green Bay Packers, getting +9.5. Over under set at 50.5. You got Detroit 6.5 point favorites, total set at 48.5. And you have the Chiefs 2.5 point underdogs against the Buffalo Bills. 45 is the total. Guys, let's get our best bets organized here and see what we want. Last week we went with the Lab Rat pick 3-2. Lab Rats are 1-0 on the playoff schedule. Scotty's needs a code yellow.
Sorry.
Guys, let's get organized with what you guys want. Let's start getting those out. I think there's an agreement in one of our picks, so I'm going to put it on here anyway, just to get it out of the way. And that is a teaser with KC +8.5, Detroit -5.5. So let's go ahead and just add that in here and get that in place.
Wait. Just -0.5. That's right.
Yes, -0.5. So
Yeah, you said 5.5, and that threw me off.
Oh, sorry. -0.5. So there we go. Teaser, KC teased up to 8.5 after from 2.5, and then Detroit -6.5 down to -0.5 point. So they just pretty much have to win. That's our first bet that we're locking in. I think that's going to be one of our best bets of the week. All right, pick number 2, guys. What do you guys like? Throw it in the chat. What are some of the bets that you think? And it could be. I mean, if you want, you could do prop bets. If you're feeling really good about a particular player, you guys vote on it. So depending on what is thrown out there from each of these games, you guys are going to have the opportunity to pick. Last week, you guys chose Houston +2.5. It was a no-brainer. It was easy cash. Throw them in the chat, guys.
Again, I'm still thinking for this week. I still want to see what the line is for the first quarter of Houston and Baltimore. I think that would be a low-key good pick.
What did you say the line for
First quarter, Texans, Ravens.
all right, so Texans Ravens first quarter. Let me see if it's here. You mean the spread?
Yeah.
Baltimore -2.5 is -126.
I'd go Texans +2.5 first quarter.
All right, add that as one of your options on the vote. Houston Baltimore over. So the over total set at under total set
43.5.
It's currently at 43.5. So add that to the vote.
Yep.
We need what? Maybe 2 or 3 more.
Yep.
While you guys are throwing out your bets, and you could do money line if you want. If you want to, throw out a money line bet. Money line bets this week are probably pretty interesting. If you feel like you want to get some value. But Scotty, let's talk about ours while they're getting theirs loaded up. Again,
I mean, we got to double up on KC at +2.5.
you want to double up on KC +2.5 as one of our best bets. I mean, I feel
we got him in the teaser, but I think we got to do him at 2.5 as well.
Yeah, I mean, like when you only have 4 games, it is kind of hard to not double up on something.
Yeah, the only other ones that we were kind of talking about that I had notes on was Baltimore -9.5, Green Bay +9.5, Tampa Bay +6.5, and Detroit Tampa Bay over 48.5.
And Green Bay San Francisco over 50.5.
I don't know why I
+50 Taylor Swift
I
mentions.
feel a little more confident about the Detroit Tampa Bay over 48.5. The Sims don't like that, but I like it. The Sims have this like a 1.5, a point-ish under this total, but I don't know. I think Tampa Bay's offense can move the ball on Detroit. I don't know. Of those, what are your thoughts, Scotty?
Let's go. If I'm closing out these last 3, I'm going KC +2.5. I'm going Green Bay +9.5, and we'll take the over in that Detroit Tampa game.
Okay. All right. So
that would be my vote.
Okay.
That leaves us a lot of wiggle room.
All right. So then let's go ahead. Let's make this happen. Green Bay +9.5 as a best bet. And then finally, we have the over under Detroit Tampa Bay 48.5. Let's see. Let's go ahead. Okay, so there we go. Those are the best bets. Now we need a lab rat pick. Green Bay is not
I'm
+9.5.
getting the poll up.
Oof, yeah, I'd take that, says Chairman. So, +50 Taylor Swift mentions. That I mean, I don't know how we're.
The Chiefs have truly become the New England Patriots of the NFL. Just haters galore. Is it really ruined anyone's experience to see them flash Taylor Swift for like 3 or 4 times a game? Has that ruined it for you?
Canada likes Bucks +6.5. So add that one in.
Okay.
Rec. How many do we have?
Yeah, Tampa Bay +6.5, Houston +9.5, Houston, Baltimore over 43.5. And then we could still go with Houston +2.5 in the first quarter.
Who had +9.5? I didn't see that in the chat. Baltimore. I mean, not Baltimore.
Chairman.
Houston. Chairman has Houston +9.5 there.
Oh, Houston +9. Okay, got it. All right. Do you want to run those, Rec, or do we want to wait for another one?
Sure.
Let's run those for the sake of time. Don't make it too long.
Poll is up.
Well, I guess we don't need to make it forever long. I don't know if you could adjust it, but guys, vote. What is the ActionLab Rat best bet of the week? This is your chance, guys. Vote here. This is only the second important vote that you probably need to make this week. But Tampa Bay +6.5, Houston +9.5, Houston +2.5 in the first quarter. Baltimore, Houston over 43.5. Vote. This will represent you guys, and we will include your record with us. By the way, I'm definitely making them separate too, so we can keep track of yours separately from ours. Keep close. I love to hate the Chiefs, but I can't deny they're already the best playoff team remaining.
They are. Keep close. Even though you pointed out that the penalty thing is a fake stat, it's actually not even. It's not. It's like a real stat. The Chiefs got their opponents were called for 73 penalties this year. Only team less than that was the Bears at 72. And the Chiefs were called for 9. Chiefs were called for 96. and
I saw
the
the
yardage
Chiefs
was the second
opponents.
most. Yeah.
Like the Chiefs' opponents got called for the most defensive holding penalties in the year.
Oh no, keep close was just pulling your leg on that. He was just being facetious when he said that. Smart ass. So he was getting
Just pulling my leg. Yeah, no, I think that was and I actually normally I like to complain about the refs going in this one, but Buffalo Bills fans should be not happy with Sean Hockley getting a gig with the Chiefs. He's great at calling Chiefs games for the Chiefs, and he calls a ton of penalties on the Bills. So
Guys,
another advantage for the Chiefs in this one.
There's way more than 5 people in this chat room right now. Guys, vote. This is important. You have 4 options of your best bets of the week to represent the Lab Rats. So if you're just hanging out in the background, just lurking, you don't even have to chat. Just vote. Just have some fun. I mean, there's no skin in the game for you guys, whether it's more pride, right? What do you want to see as your best bet? Houston is there. We go.
They love their Houston Texans.
Houston Texans
won with them last week.
Won last week.
They want to keep riding them. Riding the Texans.
Everyone's with me. Texans to the Super Bowl.
I think they're betting them at plus 9.5 right now.
Yeah, so I mean,
I consider sprinkling a little on the money line.
That's a lot of people that don't believe in Lamar and his playoff resume, which again we've struggled with. Like that was a game that
Lamar is to the NFL what playoff P is to the NBA, Chris.
It's true. In playoff P's defense, he actually had a semi-decent playoff last season. They still obviously, did what they did, but they disappear. Maybe James Harden. Is James Harden probably a better comp to Lamar Jackson?
Yeah.
Maybe James Harden is that comp. Oof. Super talented in the regular season and disappears in the playoffs.
That's actually a really, really good one.
Yeah. No, I mean, James Harden, just wait. He's happy right now, which is kind of a scary thing for Clippers fans to lull him into that sense of false security. And then all of a sudden, pull out the rug from all those Clipper fans who are super high on their team right now. And then they're just sitting there stuck.
The more I think about it, we might have taken the wrong 9.5. Maybe we should have taken Houston, Chris.
Maybe we should have. By the way, keep voting. We have what do we have? 9 total votes. Houston, Baltimore over has 2. Tampa Bay plus 6.5 has 1 vote. Houston plus 9.5 is leading currently. No one likes your first quarter bet here, Rec.
Yeah.
No one likes the first quarter bet here. Keep voting, guys.
What do you think about Bama's new coach?
I like Kalen. I mean, Kalen DeBoer's won anywhere he's been, so I like him. How does he fit into the South and at Alabama, and with that, obviously the enormous pressure that comes with that? I don't know. But I mean, I don't think that was their first choice, but I don't hate the choice. I mean, that with where they were faced, like the dude's won. Like Kalen DeBoer's record in college football is like he's like lost 14 games and won over 100. Like the dude wins. Now his recruiting, he doesn't stay long at a lot of places. So is he an elite recruiter? I don't know. I mean, he was only at Washington for like 2 or 3 years. So,
well, do we think that a lot of those Alabama players are going to stay put after being recruited by Saban? I mean, are they going to be on the move?
Some have already went into the portal.
Yeah. So it's like
I think Isaiah Bond went to Texas. I think.
Well, you had Shedeur Sanders recruiting on social media saying, "Hey, come on, I was like, come over to see you."
Anybody from Bama? I would love it if he did.
That would be, yeah.
I think he's a good coach. Whether he can recruit at that level and be all that, we'll see.
Adolph says, "Vote, fools!" Yeah, vote. We only have 9 votes, and I know there's more people in here. let's get some more votes in for this best bet.
A lot of people like Rex plus 2.5 first quarter at Houston.
Rec, you might be the only one on that. I don't hate.
No one's on it right now.
I don't hate it, but it's. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it.
I think people are too uncomfortable taking a first quarter bet. You'd rather like be able to watch the whole game and let that bet ride the whole time, right?
Orioles, thank you so much.
My man.
Hey, appreciate that love, by the way. This isn't the
Thank
only
you,
vote. Vote for the awards like Orioles just did. Click the link at ActionLab to the 4 categories. Each of the 4 categories here: Rising Star, Hidden Gem, Best Streamed, and Best Content Organization. That's the vote that matters here as well. But we want to keep getting you guys to vote for not only that, but for Ty voted for Pedro. Yeah, you can vote for Pedro too. I don't know how Pedro's doing on the votes, but you can vote for Pedro.
Probably not much.
Question on that. Obviously Houston Texans plus 9.5 is winning this vote right now, and voting is almost finished, so you gotta jump in. We have 11 total votes. 7 for Houston plus 9.5. Is Houston inflated after what they did last week against the Dallas Cowboys? I mean, are they?
I think the
They
public's
did not play
opinion.
the Dallas Cowboys.
The public's opinion is inflated based off the results against the Browns.
And do you
last week.
think
No doubt.
they're a fan favorite of like people are rooting for CJ, people are rooting for this underdog Texans team to do something big, so people are betting more publicly with Houston, knowing
I think the public's definitely on Houston.
which makes me feel like my lean towards Baltimore is a little bit more justified. Maybe again, maybe getting an extra point of value.
I think sharps are probably betting Baltimore, but I think they might be wrong.
Yeah.
They're not looking at playoff P.
I'll get playoff
Playoff
P.
L.
Yeah.
Playoff L, whatever you want to call him. I like playoff L. It's, it goes with what he does.
It's fitting.
Stick around, guys. We're going to go contest rankings of our playoff contest, and we're also going to have a coming in hot. STG's been waiting all his entire life for this coming in hot tonight. So we're going to get to that here shortly as well. But he voted 9.5 for the Texans because it's a shit ton of points.
I think we can declare the vote over. It's 8-3-1.
Yeah. Hey, guys, if you can swing it, go ahead. Vote. We have a bunch of you guys in here.
Lab rats don't miss. So
Lab rats
congrats to Houston for at least covering 9.5.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's just plug it in. It's inevitable at this point.
AFC champion CJ Stroud.
Texans are going full Thanos. They are inevitable. All right, so Houston plus 9.5 against Baltimore. 9.8. 9.5 is your Lab Rat pick of the week. So here we go.